segregation based on the color of the skin is known as apartheid. Apartheid, which means apartness, was a political and social system in South Africa in which non-whites were segregated based on color. The people of South Africa were separated until people like Nelson Mandela fought for the injustice. After years of sacrifice, finally in 1994, apartheid was ended in South Africa when the African National Congress Party won the election. The chapter Long Walk to Freedom is an extract from Mandela's autobiography Long Walk to Freedom. In this chapter, Mandela talks about the inauguration ceremony, an overview of apartheid, and his struggle for freedom. You might think, but how did it start? Okay, let's discuss the history first. As you know, European colonialists earlier used to settle everywhere. Cape Colony was first a Dutch colony, but it was snatched from the Dutch by the British, and Cape Colony came under the British in 1815. Africa is filled with natural resources, so for Britain, it was a golden opportunity. Many groups of colonists from England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales came to settle in the Eastern Cape, and Dutch farmers were excluded from the place. The tension between the groups in the end took the form of the Anglo-Boer War, where again the British won the battle. British got its complete control over South Africa. The authorities started to exert power on the native people. In 1913, they introduced Land Act. According to this act, black Africans were ordered to live in reserve and prohibited to work as sharecroppers. Then in 1948, as the National Party came into power, apartheid became law in South Africa. People were divided into 4 groups: white, black Africans, mixed race, and Asian. Because of apartheid, there was a division between whites and non-whites. Marriage between white and non-white was prohibited. Some public places were only accessible for whites. The non-whites who were above 16 years had to carry pass along with them. The government snatched lands from the native blacks and sold them at a cheap price to white farmers. From 1961 to 94, more than 3.5 million black Africans lost their lands. The apartheid not only separated whites from non-whites, but it also separated blacks from each other. They played divide and rule policy, just like they played here in India. During the period of apartheid, a non-white could not live freely. He had to follow many rules. If someone tried to speak out against the oppression, then he was punished. However, leaders like Nelson Mandela dared to do the same. Mandela said in his autobiography that in the initial stage of his life, he thought he was free. Freedom for him meant running in the fields, swimming in the stream, roasting mealies under the stars, etc. But as Mandela became a young man, his idea of freedom changed. As he grew up, he realized he was deprived of the basic rights in his own country. He also noticed that like him, his brothers and sisters of his nation were also facing the same. Then he joined the African National Congress. This desire for the freedom of his people moved him to stand against the white government. Mandela, who considered himself as the sum of all freedom fighters who had passed away, had been influenced by many people. Mandela mentioned in his autobiography, "Many of the people who influenced me, but more and more I had come under the wise tutelage of Walter Sisulu. It is from people like Walter Sisulu, Oliver Tambo, and Sif Luthuli Mandela learned that courage is not the absence of fear, rather conquering fear. In the attempt to fulfill his obligation to his people, his community, and his country, he was separated from his home and family, and as a result, he could not fulfill his other obligation to his family. For the sake of freedom, Mandela had to spend 27 years in jail. The racial government was later replaced by the non-racial government in 1994, which re-established the rights and freedom of the people of South Africa. The 10th of May 1994 was marked as a historic day for South Africa. On this day, people of South Africa, guests from other nations, thronged the sandstone amphitheater to celebrate the victory of justice, peace, and human dignity. According to Mandela, like the people of South Africa, the oppressor who hated them were also slaves. Let me explain. The oppressors were bound by prejudice and narrow-mindedness. A man who is bound by the bars of hatred cannot see things clearly. He can never understand the meaning of freedom. Therefore, like the oppressed, the oppressor is also not free. Such things only exist in the mind, but Mandela says that none is born with a negative mindset. Like other things, hate is acquired by a person from others. Mandela argues if hate is learned, then love can also be taught. Mandela focuses on the oppressor because along with the freedom of the oppressed, the freedom of the oppressor is equally important. Mandela, in his autobiography, says, "For to be free is not merely to cast off one's sins, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others." So, uplifting others' way of life is only possible when the mind is free from the prejudice. So, what have we learned so far? What is apartheid? History of apartheid, Mandela's struggle for freedom, and Mandela's view on freedom. If you think I have not discussed everything, wait, I have discussed every aspect of the chapter on the website. I will share the link in the comment box. Anyway, now I want you to move your attention from South Africa to India. Do you think in India we also have a similar type of practice which is based on color, caste, religion, etc.? It could be an open division like this, or it could be like this. Share your view in the comment box. And why am I asking the question? Because remember, questioning is the beginning of intelligence. Thank you for your time and patience.